Young people are so overdramatic these days. You don't know anything about struggling until you've lived in the real world. Well, I would never listen to you. You don't have enough experience. Children should only speak when spoken to. Well, you have been speaking to us for years. As climate change threatens our futures, as adults on social media tell us that our bodies aren't perfect enough, as the housing crisis tells us to forget that dream of owning a one-bedroom mouldy apartment in the city, you have been speaking to us, shouting at us for years. Yet when young people try to respond, you shut us down. Why? I honestly don't know. No matter how you paint it, the message remains clear. Young people shouldn't contribute to conversations. Our society weighs the value of your contribution based on the number of candles on your birthday cake. I fundamentally believe that our thoughts shouldn't be judged based on the number of grey hairs that are on our head, but rather by what we actually have to offer underneath. Our voices are being silenced by your incessant assertions of our ignorance. You rip our voices away. You refuse to even acknowledge the point of view of someone who society has forced you to believe is below you. But you forget, we are no one if we don't have our voices. Not having a platform to speak up about the issues that you're facing is a fast-track ticket to vulnerability and insignificance. The denial of young people's voices is having a detrimental effect on the well-being of our tamariki. How do I know this? Because when I was at my lowest, no one would listen. For the better part of my teenage years, I have struggled with anxiety and depression. I have started my journey into adulthood with a trail of self-sabotaging thoughts dragging me down. My mind would tell me that I was worthless, pathetic, not worth caring for. These thoughts were then affirmed by the actions and behaviours of adults around me. My mind would tell me that I didn't need to go to therapy because I wasn't struggling enough. Adults would then remind me that it's impossible for people my age to struggle because I haven't lived in the real world. These thoughts of my own insignificance started to win. They started to take over. And despite this growing fear of what would become of me if I let these words win, I knew that if I spoke up, no one would listen. These thoughts were consuming me, and I could no longer bear the thought of what would happen to me if I continued to listen to them. So I decided to reach out. In my first session of counselling, I tried so hard to be open and honest about the struggles that I was facing. I was given the following advice: make friends with your inner critic. Make friends with that same voice that for years now had been telling me that I was better off dead. I had tried to be open and honest, and what I was left with was the mitigation of my struggles. They were right. You were right. Clearly, I wasn't struggling enough. Clearly, I was making it all up. Maybe I should give in. Maybe I should finally listen to that inner critic. Despite how easy giving up seemed, I knew I couldn't let those voices win. So, even though that counsellor couldn't make enough time for another session, even though I was convinced it would change absolutely nothing, I found someone else. I found someone that would not just tell me the things that they think they know are best for me, but instead listened. Listened because I was worth it. Listened because my thoughts and my experiences have power. Listened because I was strong enough to get through it. Eventually, I did find that person, and that gave me strength I thought I would never have again. I had been proven that my voice, even as a young person, mattered in the grand scheme of things. I looked at the impacts that the mental health crisis in New Zealand is having on people around me, and I thought, enough is enough. I decided to present a petition to Parliament demanding an increase in funding for the mental health services in Aotearoa. It gained 1,358 signatures, not bad for someone who that same year wanted to fade into oblivion. One adult hearing my voice, showing me the power of my experiences, led me, a 17-year-old girl with crippling panic attacks, to stand on the steps of Parliament with Chöle Swarbrick on one side and the Deputy Leader of ACT on the other, presenting the petition which showed me that I was worth it. This begs the question, what could you have done at my age if someone only listened, supported, or shared? It's when we come together that we are able to create the change that we need to see in the world. It's about listening, supporting, and allowing yourself to open your mind up to the points of view and experiences that society has forced you to believe is below you, even if they have fewer wrinkles. Young people are starting to understand the power of their own voices. You can't keep us quiet for much longer. We are a generation who are coming to understand that it's together that we are strongest. So maybe it's time that we join youth initiatives, give them the resources and the platform that they need to share their stories effectively. With the power of the digital age at our fingertips, we can connect with other like-minded people across the globe. Greta Thunberg recruited an army of people, both young and old alike, to fight for climate justice because she recognised the power of her own words. Even when the likes of Donald Trump and Jeremy Clarkson tried to belittle her into just being another angry little girl, she had that army of people behind her to raise her up, support her, and fight for that climate justice that we so desperately need. Adult experiences aren't the only ones that matter. Adult voices may dominate, yet emerging from the cracks is a generation who understands the power of their own voices. I want my journey of mental health advocacy to be hard because it's terrifying to be vulnerable, not because I can't get respect in the first place. I want my voice to be heard not because I push and fight my way to the stage, but because the world accepts that I matter. I want my little sister to grow up in a world in which she can speak up about the issues around her and not be shut down. Every step of this journey, I've been faced with adults who make me second guess or question my knowledge and my experiences, all because I'm younger than them. I want to leave you today with two questions. The first one, I want you to be brutally honest about. What were your first thoughts when you saw a 17-year-old girl take the stand? Were you willing to dismiss everything that I was about to say because you thought you already knew what was going to happen? Secondly, what could you have done at my age if adults told us from day one to believe in the power of our own voices? What could you have done then? What could we have achieved if we only listened and supported each other? Thank you.